Welcome back to another day in the market, and today, to close off this week on Friday, the S&P 500 was down 0.06%, so essentially flat. We are starting a little bit of a downturn, so we're going to talk about how that's going to affect some of our stocks, and then we're going to get into a trade alert that we called out earlier this week or late last week that has done pretty amazing, and I also have a really good other call out for you, so stick around at the end of this video for that, because our call outs lately have been pretty amazing. And if you like this content and you see value in these call outs and just this video in general, hit the like button. It is the easiest and best way to help out the channel, and don't forget to hit the subscription bell and the notification bell so you can see all of my latest call outs as well as all of my latest videos. So get right into it. Nothing really has changed that much on the S&P 500. We still are above this market bias indicator right here, and we still have the 7-period moving average over the 25-period exponential moving average. So we are still overall on the daily in an uptrend for the S&P. We can zoom into the MACD real quick. We are on a downturn, and we do not really consider the MACD to be any sort of bearish sentiment, at least until it's crossing below the zero line. But you can see that the MACD line is below the signal line, so at the very least it is in a breather. At most it is the beginning of another downturn, but this is not short territory right now. It's not a time to go short on the S&P. As far as the technicals, pulling up the RSI, you can see that the simple moving average is pointed down, and you have the RSI using the moving average right here as a resistance rather than a support. So in the short term, we are in a breather or potentially a beginning of a longer downturn. So that's what we got right now. I'm going to bring up Palantir because it has got a lot of buzz lately. There is a lot of YouTube stock channels out there that are really pushing this ticker now, because it has gone from $10 in May, early May, to a high recently, a recent high of $20. So it was essentially doubled, and that was August 1st. So over the course of 3 months, it's doubled. And yes, that is pretty juicy, because if you were to throw, for example, $1,000 into it on May 10th, and you sold it on August 1st, you would have doubled your money. But in the long term, that's not really how we want to deal with it, because the hype starts to come right here, and everyone starts pumping it on social media, TikTok, YouTube, all that, and then it starts to go down, and it is as old as time as far as that story. So how should we play Palantir? Well, I'm going to give you a couple different scenarios, and some people are only bulls, some people are only bears, so I'm going to kind of give sides of both. So let's start on the weekly first, because we at least want to zoom out a little bit here. And you can see right around the time that everyone started pumping it on social media, which was right about here, which was a couple weeks ago. Since then, it has fallen pretty significantly, about 25%. It's almost as if big institutions and big money pay attention to that sort of thing. So anyways, we don't have the market bias indicator on here because it has gone public too soon. So what we do have are these moving averages. And if you were playing the weekly, what you want to do, since you don't have the market bias indicator, is you want to go long when the MACD crosses above the zero line, when the signal or the 7-period moving average is above the 25 exponential moving average, and when the RSI is at least above the signal line. That is according to my setup. That is according to the setup that I use every day on this channel. And when would that have gotten you in? Well, this triangle represents the MACD crossing above the zero line on the MACD line. So there's the MACD line and the signal line. Keep that in mind, right? That is right here. So funny enough, on at least according to the weekly chart, May 8th, all of our criteria for my strategy was met, and it was $10. So my strategy on the weekly would have gotten you in right when there was that huge upturn. So keep that in mind if you're trying to figure out which YouTube channels to pay attention to. So anyways, on the weekly, what are we seeing right now? Well, if you pull up the MACD, we're starting to at least see some sort of inflection. Sorry, that was just my phone going off there. Some inflection to the downside on the MACD. We are somewhat overbought, but I guess that's what the RSI is going to tell us, right? So, but we're starting to inflect down. We're starting to lose that momentum on the histogram. That is when this blue line starts to get closer towards this yellow line, which is the signal line. That is when the histogram is going to start to go back down. So what we're kind of seeing with the MACD right now is that we are a little overbought. We're starting to deflect back down. And whether or not this is a breather to the upside or a bigger downturn, kind of like how we were talking about earlier on the S&P 500, that remains to be seen. And that is where we are going to look for an entry position on either a short or off of a bounce, off of a indication that it was just a breather and now we're continuing, okay? So stick around for this channel because we're going to be following Palantir and we're going to be giving updates kind of like this guy right here of when to enter or exit a position on Palantir. Again, though, this is just my opinion, just some guy on YouTube like every other stock YouTube channel out there. So we're going to go down to the daily because it's going to tell us a little bit more detail, and we'll kind of do this. Now, if we get rid of this price action real quick, you can see, and let me zoom in, this 7-period moving average is still above the 25-period exponential moving average. So what that's showing us, technically, according to just these two guys right here, we're still in an uptrend. According to the HA market bias indicator, we are also still in an uptrend. According to the MACD, well, now we have something interesting, okay? And this is kind of going into what I am going to plan for the MACD. I would like this signal line that is very much approaching that zero line, or excuse me, this MACD line that is very much approaching this zero line. I would really like it to go below the zero line. Reason why is because when it comes back up, it's going to give me a signal. It's going to give me one of these triangles, a green triangle, and that is going to be a green triangle above the market bias indicator. And, you know, we'll see where these two moving average lines are, but most likely when that occurs, the blue line is going to be above the yellow, which is going to signal a bull market or a continuation to the upside. And then the RSI, we are going to look to see where that is. And if it is above that signal line, that's an entry position. And then from there, you can do a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio. You can put in a certain amount of your portfolio that you're willing to lose and just basically let it ride until the market bias indicator is either turned red or you have, I don't know, double your money or something like that, some sort of very long-term outlook. Or you can just track it every day, however your exit strategy is. But that would be a really good entry position for Palantir. Just for the heck of it, let's go to the monthly. Just to kind of point out again, you know, look, the indicators aren't really going to tell you anything because there just hasn't been much data, but it's just a reminder. This month right here at the top of that month too, by the way, because that was the close, and it was at the end of the month when everyone started pumping this thing. At least on social media, algorithm, kind of everything started taking off. That's when it happened at the end of July, and now we're starting to see a bounce back. So that is Palantir. Don't get too excited about it. Patience is key. And if you missed this move right here, even though if you're watching our videos, you know that this would have met all of the criteria, and you could have doubled your money based off of our setup here. But I'm going to get into a couple of call outs that I made here. So let's just go down the list. So Baba, we had an entry position technically right here, although it wasn't the best entry position because of the fact that the MACD line is crossed. You really want to enter when the signal line is under the MACD line. So technically you're still kind of waiting. But if you're a person that really wants to get in whenever the market bias indicator turns green, then technically you're in it right now and you're probably about flat if you got in on the first day. MU was this right here. Where is it? Right here. So we called this one out at 67.84. It did reach a high of 72.55, and that was a pretty big jump if you played it short term. It looks like we're heading down to the market bias indicator. So if you're looking to go long on it, look for a bounce, something similar like this, and you can even bring up the Heikinashi candles to see that bounce right here. So down and then a bounce and a green candle would be a really good place to enter. But if you entered right here, right here, maybe you're a little flat or a little under right now, but there isn't really necessarily an indication that you should sell out, other than the fact, and I did make this claim, if you go back and watch my video on MU, I did point out that you should be careful on going long on anything right now. Just be careful. It doesn't mean you can't, but just be careful because of the overall market. The S&P 500 is starting to go down. You got Apple, Nvidia, Meta, all of those starting to go down. That's going to drag most likely everything with it. Some of these stocks can hang under the radar because they're just small cap and maybe they're not necessarily affected so much by the S&P and NASDAQ and all that. But you always want to play the trend of what the major indices are doing. So if you entered this trade right here, you had an opportunity to make a lot of money. If you wanted to hang on for it more so in the long term, you're still okay because you're still above this market bias indicator. And just know if you are playing this market bias indicator right here, you got to be prepared to have a little bit of losses if you are, just playing just that indicator. And we did point out also when we started this trade that we are still in the red on the weekly. And you really, really do want to see a green market bias indicator on the weekly if you're playing the daily. So that was that one. We're going to get to ADMA right now. That is another one that we called out. And let's just go back to the actual price action for a second. We did call this one out on this day right here when the MACD line crossed above the zero line. It was at 391 and it is currently at 448. So that would have been a pretty significant gains. And even on that, even though it's only been a couple of days and this could ride for quite a while, that's not bad. That's pretty good, decent gains. Don't be selfish, maybe lock some profits in and ride the last couple of your shares or something. Anyways, I'm calling this one out right now. Let's do a full analysis of this guy right now. So let's go to let's go to the weekly. And on the weekly, we are still a little bit too new to have a market bias indicator. So we cannot go off of that. What we can go off of are these two moving average lines. So let's get rid of the price action and see if they are crossing, and zoom in, and they are right on top of each other. Technically, the blue line is over the yellow line. So that is technically bullish. Let's zoom in on this. Okay, so we crossed above the zero line, but we want to see the MACD line cross above the signal line as well. And you can see that this is trending down. This is a bearish divergence right here as we're kind of flat. So, it's kind of a divergence. If anything, we kind of moved up. This could be a little bit of a fake out. There was news, it looks like, which might have spiked it up a little bit. So On the weekly, it's not looking too great, but it is something that I would say you would want to watch within the next couple of days, maybe the next week or so. But going down to, this is ARRY, by the way, going down to the daily, this was a bounce off of the market bias indicator, which is something you really, really want to see. It looks like they just had earnings recently, and it shot up after earnings, and then it had some news, as we talked about earlier. This wouldn't be a terrible entry. I would, in my opinion, not put too much stake into it. And it looks like it could be at the very beginning signs of a turnaround, because, you know, you have this sort of trend line here. Let's do that. You have a trend line right here that broke, and now you kind of have a new trend line right here, which is following the market bias indicator pretty decently. But if we zoom in, it looks like, you know, kind of fell below it, right? So this is an interesting one. I would maybe just wait and see if this is going to come down and then come back up just one more time. But, you know, I wouldn't hate it as a long position. I'd just say maybe don't put too much into it. It's got a little bit mixed signals, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, on the daily, it is above the 0 line, and it's above the HA market bias indicator, and you have the blue line, looks like was just barely above the yellow line there. So those are our call outs today. That is the S&P 500, that's Palantir, that's our trade call outs. If you like this video, once again, please just hit the like button. I really, really appreciate it. It is by far the easiest way and quickest way to help out the channel. Otherwise, if you want to see more on Palantir, more on our trade call outs, our trade alerts, I highly encourage you just to hit the subscription bell and the notification bell so you can see all of my latest content. Until then, we'll see you next time. Thank you.